name is Rick Brimacomb, and on behalf of the Minneapolis Club, Club Entrepreneur, and Upsize Magazine, welcome to our workshop on avoiding the avoidable, mistakes that derail successful companies. I started doing venture capital deals over 20 years ago. On the investment side of the equation, the first thing I was taught to do was to minimize risks. Once in an investment, I was taught to add value. And the third thing I was taught was to avoid mistakes. That is why we're here today, to help companies like yours avoid the avoidable. As such, Upsize Minnesota and Club Entrepreneur have assembled a panel of experts who can serve as your trusted advisors. Upsize Minnesota is a how-to business magazine devoted to helping business owners build bigger and more profitable companies. The magazine's publisher, Wes Bergstrom, Wes is over here, and its editor, Beth Ewan. Beth is right over here. Yay, Beth. Ooh, got the big crowd going. Woohoo! Anyway, they're both here today, so seek them out after the panel and introduce yourself. Club Entrepreneur and my firm, Brimacomb & Associates, support folks like you helping refine strategies, assemble resources, and secure funding. In our joint effort to provide actionable content, Upsize Minnesota and Club Entrepreneur offer you today's panel. And with that, I want to introduce you to our event sponsors. DS&B CPAs and Business Advisors, L. Harris Partners, Financial and Strategic Consulting, Schwegman Lumberg Woosner, an intellectual property law firm, Straight Talk Communication, a strategic change and communications firm, and Tech Guru, technology services provider. So thank you very much to our sponsors. And with that, on to our panelists. I'm going to go alphabetical to my immediate left here. Tim Rothwall, an attorney at Schwegman Lumberg Woosner. Dan Moshe, founder of Tech Guru. Tom Siders, partner of L. Harris Partners. Am Sutton, managing director of Straight Talk Communication. And Jen Verley, a principal at DS&B. And a couple of you have done past events with us, so thanks for coming back. Now that you've been introduced to everyone, let's hear from them as to how they fit into the discussion about avoiding the avoidable, mistakes that derail successful companies. Panelists will each please share a little bit about your bio and background with the audience. And why don't we start with you, Tim?
Thanks, Rick. Again, my name is Tim Grathwall, and I'm a patent attorney with Schwegman Lumberg and Woosner, or just Schwegman. It's kind of a lot to swallow. So patent attorney means that I have a technical background in undergraduate, and then I specialized in the area of patent law after going to law school. So the unfortunate truth about me is that I have an engineering degree, and then after going through that, which I won't go into, I voluntarily went to law school. So, just take that for what it's worth in terms of what it says about me. But I have a technical background in various types of mechanical and electrical and software systems, and I help clients protect their inventions, okay, or protect their products and defend against attacks or allegations that their products might be infringing upon intellectual property of others. Our law firm, Schwegman, is a full-service, what we call patent prosecution firm. It's a boutique firm. We don't generally do litigation, first-chair litigation, so we're not the ones actually taking these patents to court to suit. We do pretty much everything before that. Most of what we do is write patent applications and help engineers and scientists translate their technology or their inventions into a legal document that provides them protection in the U.S. and other countries around the world. But we do a lot of other counseling and things like that. So I think that's pretty good.
And Schwegman also is known as SLW.
SLW, yes.
And then also SLW has been a sponsor of Club Entrepreneur actually going back to 2007. So thank you very much, Tim, for your firm's ongoing support. Dan Moshe is founder of Tech Guru.
Thank you, Rick. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And so I founded Tech Guru about 11 years ago out of my University of Minnesota dorm room with really one philosophy, and that was to take care of people. But not being so inclined in terms of like taking care of people like a doctor might, or taking care of people like in other ways. I know how to take care of their computers, and that's what I spent my undergrad career doing, helping people. I drove all the way from Edina to Maple Grove and back again, sometimes in the same day. It was a lot of fun. But today it's evolved. My office now is in Northeast Minneapolis. Got 9 extremely talented technology people with a good personality. You don't want to say just with personality. That could be misconstrued. But no, with friendly, helpful people that we take care of our clients' computers so they can take care of their clients and their business. And we work with all different kinds of professional service organizations all over Minnesota, and even some far-flung places like the Dakotas as well.
And Dan has done a number of panels for us here with the combination of Upsize Magazine and Club Entrepreneur, so thanks for your support, Dan. And then also when he says he's the technology guy that cares, he's telling the truth, because he shoots emails to me at like 10 o'clock at night. He responds, and I'm going, Dan, this won't work. And I just need it to work. And so anyway, so he is caring because he helps me in the middle of the night, and I appreciate that very much. All right, Tom Siders is a partner at L. Harris Partners.
Hello, everyone. I'm a recovering CPA. I spent 35 years with the McGladrey organization, 25 as a client service partner, and my last 10 years on the firm's national management team, which allowed me to strap an airplane to my rump every week for 10 years, and I'd had enough. So I retired and failed at that. My wife, after 2 weeks, said, "You vacuum the carpet every day except one the last 2 weeks. You probably need to go do something." So 4 of us formed our own consulting firm. We're now up to 10, back to doing the things we like to do. We are all former business executives who have managed businesses, both our own and for others, across various industries, various sizes. We've been both buyers and providers of professional services, so we've been seated on both sides of the table. Collectively, we've been involved in over 500 business transactions, purchase, sale. And when we started our firm 5 years ago, we started surveying business owners around the country. We've surveyed over 8,500 of them, and we asked them, what are your biggest strategic issues? And there are some very common themes out there. Revenue growth, either organic or expansion or acquisition. I need some improved profitability and cash flow. I need better data and metrics to manage my business. I need help recruiting and retaining good people, and I need help with business succession transition, and they all tell us, and I can't start with the last one, I've got to fix the business first before I can ever think about getting out. So our services have been built on those strategic needs. Since we've been in the client seat, we've always been handed unrealistic expectations from those above us with not enough time to accomplish them. So we attempt to do consulting engagements with clients where there are realistic expectations and something they can actionably do to improve the quality of their business.
And Tom, you and your firm have been on a couple of our panels, so thank you for doing that. And I've interacted with their firm several times over a number of years, so appreciate the relationship that we've been able to have, Tom. Ann Sutton is Managing Director of Straight Talk Communication. Ann?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rick. I first have to apologize for my voice. I was down with a cold over the weekend, and I'm still struggling with laryngitis, so I've been told I sound like Deborah Winger, but I know it's kind of painful to listen to, so I apologize in advance.
Much more attractive.
Oh, thank you, I think. I launched Straight Talk Communication Consulting 10 or 11 years ago after spending about the same amount of time doing change management consulting and communication with PricewaterhouseCoopers, similar to Tom, spending a lot of time on the airplane, flying after client engagements, and largely working with Fortune 500 firms, so the Lockheed Martins of the world, the Thomson Reuters of the world, the big firms that were struggling with long-term, not necessarily growth initiatives, but really any kind of project that is going to shake up the organization, shake up the structure. Maybe it's an acquisition or the integration of an acquisition or a new financial system. It's going to shake up the way employees do their work. So we help them looking at what are the things you can do, what are the things you can put in place to bring along the organization in what is usually a long-term project. So whether it's a growth strategy, a new system or an acquisition integration kind of work. So Straight Talk still does that same type of work with small to mid-sized companies now. So we brought the expertise of the Fortune 500 into the smaller segment, and still try to help work with clients to put tactics and plans in place that no matter how good the strategy is, if you don't bring along the organization and the employees, nothing really happens. So that's kind of the work that we've been doing for the last 10 or 11 years. We're a consortium of consultants and contractors. We staff based on client needs, so we don't overstaff, which is a lot of what I saw when I was working with the big 5 consulting organizations. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to a great discussion.
And Ann and I have had a number of conversations over the last couple of years about the importance of communications, HR, and in the change management area. So thanks for participating on the panel today, Ann. You're a trooper for coming here, and I guess she sent an email about 24 hours ago and was worried about her voice. So she's worked real hard to get here, and thanks for participating.
Thanks for the extra water.
Yeah.
And the cough drop, Dan.
Yep. Jen Verley is a principal at DS&B. Jen, tell us a little bit about you and your firm.
Sure. Thank you for having me today. I'm a tax principal at DS&B here in Minneapolis, so actually very conveniently 2 blocks away, so it was a nice walk outside on this warm day. I work with family and privately owned businesses that mostly are in commercial real estate, retail, restaurants, and professional service organizations. And I work with them to help reduce the tax complexities that they face in the changing laws so that they can make the business and management decisions to help their businesses grow. At DS&B, we work to be connected with our clients, know their businesses, know their industry, so that we can be in communication with them frequently to understand the complexities they're chasing so that we can help them map out their decision-making process to help them make those management decisions and understand it from a financial and tax perspective. And we work to be proactive in understanding their industry and their business and focusing on the niches that make sense for us so that we can bring the appropriate tax planning opportunities for them so they can take advantage of them and use that as another resource and tool for themselves. And we aim to be accessible. I personally, one of the things I take a lot of pride in is being able to take those complex tax situations and put them into plain English and help people understand the tax situation and the financial situation for them and their leadership team so that they can make the decisions they need to make for their business and help it grow.
Great. Thanks, Jen. And then DS&B has been on a couple of our panels, so we appreciate your support and appreciate your participation today. So thank you. All right. So now that you've met everybody and you've had an opportunity to learn a little bit about their companies, their backgrounds, and so forth, the next segment of our event, we're going to allow each of the panelists to go into greater depth regarding their respective practice area. And we'll hear about their 2 cents worth on our topic today. So why don't we start back at this end, and Tim, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. So, in getting ready for, so again, I'm a patent attorney, so it's all about patents for me. And you would think that, and I would think that I would get up here and talk and tell you, like, number 1, file a lot of patents, okay? And call me when you do, you know? But actually, I was thinking about this, and the more and more I've worked with companies in situations where, in particular, where they're looking at selling a part of their business, or they're looking at purchasing another business, or acquiring some assets. And if I get involved, then there's IP involved, so otherwise they just use other attorneys for that kind of thing. But I was thinking about other things other than filing patent applications that happen early on in a business when it's less formal and more entrepreneurial and less structured. And there's a couple highlights from an IP perspective that are pretty simple things to do to remediate some things that can happen later on that turn out to be kind of big sticking points if you try to, sell the company or sell off some of the assets or just try to extract some value. So at a later date. So the first 2 things I call dealings with employees and dealings with non-employees. And you might ask, who does that leave? That's the beauty of those 2. It doesn't leave anybody, right? I've dealt with all possible situations. And then the last one is a little bit different. It kind of turns the topic on its head, and that's designing IP into your product or into your business. But the first two are really about upfront having a little bit more formal and structured relationships legally with both employees and non-employees. Why do we care from an IP perspective? Because we want to make clear if an employee generates or comes up, conceives of an invention, for example, who owns that, okay? You might think, well, it's on company time, it's on company computers, the company pays for the thing, the patent to be filed, it writes down their, the company name on the application, it's the company's, but that's not true. Under US law, it goes to the inventor. They have to give you the rights, they have to give the company. So it's a good idea to have an agreement structure in place, both with respect to inventions and with respect to confidential information about the company. And I can kind of circle back if there's time. I'm going to try to move so I don't run out of time. But so it's a good idea to have, for that reason, to have an understanding and agreement with all your employees. It's not that hard to put a form agreement in place. It doesn't have to be overly complex or overly reaching. It's just a recognition that when you're on the job, part of your role as an engineer, scientist, or other technical role is to generate and innovate for the company. And those, your rights in those inventions, if we file an application, are going to go to the company. Now you can also reward the employees. You can do things to reward the employees. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. But so have an agreement for your employees. Have an agreement with non-employees. One of the things, like if I'm working with big or small, but mostly it happens with smaller companies, talking about this great idea that they have for a patent, and in the course of the conversation I ask them, who are the inventors or who are the technical contributors? They give me a list. And I always say, so are they employees? Oh no, Joe's not an employee. Okay, do you have an agreement? The problem here is now Joe owns that patent. Okay, if we file it, he owns it. He's not an employee, doesn't have an obligation or even really necessarily an incentive to assign his rights to the company. So again, it's a good idea to work those things out ahead of time. And these things tend to sit there and they're kind of hidden and they pop up later in time. And they're harder, they're not impossible, but they're harder to remediate later in time. They're harder to take care of. And then the last one is designing intellectual property into your product or your business. So this could mean a lot of different things. It could mean literally trying to design your product in a way that you can protect it with IP, which sounds kind of silly. Usually you design your product, for the market, for the customer, and then if it happens to have some sort of innovation, and the patent would flow from there. But there are things that you can do ahead of time to actually put something in your product that's protectable under the law, and that prevents not prevents anybody from doing anything close, but at least prevents people from knocking it off and copying it, and also develops some brand strength and some sort of recognition in the buying public of your products. There's other things you can do to kind of build into the process, the culture. You can have brainstorming sessions with technical people. You could set aside time and compensate them in a way for basically a day off of innovation, of getting to get, Google does this thing called, or the Silicon Valley companies do these things called hackathons. There's these huge things where they give them all the caffeinated soda they want, right? That's a requirement.
Hop them up on sugar.
And whatever they want to eat, and they give them a couple days off to all be together, and they literally sit there and code and come up with crazy ideas. And then, some different things flow out of that. You could, Google's huge, so they could create a contest out of it. They could start whole companies based off of it. But you can start small. You could just have one day or an afternoon where you buy them pop and chips and say, there's no.
Pop, right?
Yeah,
It is
soda.
Minnesota.
Soda, sorry. Yeah. We're not in Colorado, right? We're not in Colorado, right? Yeah. Soda, thank you. So it could start out really small or humble, but that's another thing that you could do. So there's different ways to kind of build the idea from the get-go that we are going to innovate. We're gonna protect our product to the extent that we can. We're gonna own our product, okay? Because if we come up with something, anything that we come up with we've generated, we've innovated. It may not be, protectable under this patent, under the U.S. patent system, but we've done something. So to the extent we can, let's try to own it. Otherwise, we're just basically giving it away to our competition. So try to build in some processes at an early stage that facilitate that process later on. So,
Great. Thanks, Tim.
yeah.
Dan?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'd just like to do a quick poll. Show of hands, please, if you've experienced any technology-related downtime in the last year. All right, it's a good 40, 50%. Well, I'm going to share with you a couple ideas that you can take home, take back to the office, and potentially avoid more downtime like that in the future. So the first thing is really around security. I mean, you knew the IT guy was going to bring this up. So it really is important nowadays. We have for example, a client has about 100 people in their office, and we just proactively did a scan on their environment, on their computers, to check and see if any of their computers were susceptible to that CryptoLocker. Show of hands if you heard of that. CryptoLocker. Okay, good. So CryptoLocker is this current phenomenon where it's a virus where the hackers take and lock up your data with a password. But if you want the password, you have to pay them for it. They hold your data ransom. So we don't negotiate with those guys. Instead, the way to prevent, and sometimes it's hard to avoid it from getting hit with it, but the way to prevent significant downtime is to have really, really good backups. So we don't look at backup just in the ability to store your data somewhere, but also in how long it can take to get the data back. That's an important thing to take into consideration. It's great that Rick backs up all his data, for example, but if it took...
With Dan's help.
Thank you. But if it took 3 days to get it all back in the event that his computer crashed, that would really be disruptive to Rick's day. So just imagine if that affected 100 people for a couple of days as well. So one of the things that we've done recently with another larger client is we said, well, let's see what happens when we unplug this important wire and how the backups run. So we did just that. We literally pulled the plug on our client's main system and checked to make sure that the backup system was really working. And we ran that client off that entire sort of, we call it replicated system for a whole week with almost no downtime. So that way we really gave that client confidence that their backups were working and that their people would continue to be productive and take care of their clients. So the question to ask your IT people, is how long would it take to, in the event that we were hit with CryptoLocker, get back up and running again without paying the ransom. Generally, we want to not encourage that behavior. The last thing I would say is building your technology team, and depending on the size of your organization, it could be multiple outsourced partners, or it could be a combination of internal resources and external. But it's important to think about, do we have someone in place who can give us some direction and strategy, maybe a budget for our IT, and then that can trickle down to someone who can manage projects and someone who can then provide desktop support. So those are kind of like the sort of minimum requirements of roles, and certainly there can be multiple people doing multiple roles, but just make sure that somebody's in each of those boxes. Not too long ago, we had a client do an Office 365 migration, and they had 2 of the boxes filled. They had the they had the reseller for Office 365, which again, this was before they became a client. wasn't us, of course. They had somebody helping them with the Office 365 part, and they had somebody internally who was helping get it set up. But they really missed the boat on having somebody in the project management role to make sure that everything was planned out thoughtfully. And a project that would normally only take a couple of days or kind of a long weekend took weeks, and there was a lot of downtime. Unfortunately, they had forgotten about things like scan to email and other important functions that you need to be able to be productive. So taking an analysis or inventory of the different roles and responsibilities. If you're a little bit larger organization, and this organization was and would have benefited from somebody in a training role, is somebody in that seat, the project management seat. And then again, large organizations also can think about things like asset management and how many computers, where are they, and when they should be replaced. So to recap, disaster recovery, think about how long it takes to recover from your backups. Is it an hour? Is it more or less instantaneous, like that example I shared with you? Cybersecurity, I can email you these if you want, but go back and ask about two-factor authentication and things like mobile drive encryption. That makes it so that if I forget this here and some bad intention person grabs it, I'm sure that there's nobody here like that, but somebody grabs it and tries to download things from it, that they'd have pretty difficult time doing that. So those are two just like baseline things that you want to be thinking about nowadays that will help keep your information secure on all of your mobile devices, keep your Facebook account secure, and keep your email secure. Anybody receive those one of those emails where somebody from your friend says, hey, click on this link or download this program, and sure enough, it's some malware or spyware. Generally speaking, that's because their passwords were hacked. And two-factor authentication, what it does when somebody from the other side of the world tries to get into your email account, it just sends you a quick text message and says, hey, we need you to enter this code because we don't recognize you. So I'd say you can go and turn that on email accounts right now. Google calls it two-factor authentication. If you have Gmail, Microsoft has it as well. And it's free and minimally invasive. And then again, the third thing was just building your technology team, making sure you have someone watching out for all of your best interests. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Dan. And then just a reminder about our event today. Upsize Magazine and Beth's typing away over here will cover this in the next issue of Upsize. So what you hear today, you can also get in the next issue of Upsize. And then I'm videoing it for the Club Entrepreneur platform. So the video will be available in about a week or so on the Club Entrepreneur platform. So there's a couple of different ways to get the information here, as well as, I'm sure, reach out to any of the folks up on the stage. All right, Tom Siders. Tom, you want to
And Rick,
go next?
thanks for that break, because when I listen to him talk, I get a bit of vertigo because I don't understand what he's talking about. We approach every client relationship with a business assessment, and Rick will tell you two businesses can look absolutely identical and have substantially different values, because the numbers may be the same, but the underlying qualitative factors are very different. So we start our client relationships with a free business assessment. We look at 400 different qualitative aspects of the business, from sales and marketing to HR to finance to leadership, planning, etc. And what comes out of that is, for the client, some sort of prioritized list of things they need to address in their business. It also provides us, selfishly, with an opportunity to do our own due diligence to determine if it's a client we want to work with, and are they willing to roll up their sleeves and do the tough stuff that's going to help grow business value and make a better business out of it. So we got together and decided that we needed our own kind of top 10 list of mistakes business owners make. So I'll just kind of quickly go through them. I may have a couple of examples. One is they don't have a business plan. Or if they do, they waste time doing one, stick it in a folder, and don't look at it the rest of the year. So why go through the exercise? Big data? How about bad data? Bad data means that clients overestimate their revenue, underestimate their expenses, fail to recognize that they are about to have a big cash flow implosion. And so it's not the amount of data they have, it's that they're not, some businesses have so damn much data they can't even figure out what it's telling them. So, number 3 is picking the wrong business partner and not having a solid shareholder agreement when you go into business with somebody else. 1 out of 2 marriages in this country don't work. I think the rate's higher for those who go into business together. Not having a good handle on your customer base. You think your clients are much more loyal than they really are, or you have way too much dependence on 1 or 2 customers. If 80% of your business is vested in 1 customer, and that customer knows it, who do you think has the pricing leverage in that relationship? Lack of financial controls is huge. They say that hope is not a strategy and trust is not financial controls. I have a humdinger of an example of a client who trusted their CFO, who over an 8-year period embezzled over $5 million. Here's a biggie: making business decisions solely on the tax ramifications. I'm sure you have worked with clients who will throw away $100,000 to save $30,000 in income taxes. That just doesn't seem like a good trade-off. The other thing, besides the taxes, is mixing the business and the personal together so that your financial statements, you can't even tell whether you're making money or not because you have all your toys, all your vacations, all your fun stuff buried inside the business. Failure to vet and select the right advisors. Failure to recruit and rely on a good outside board of directors. Even if you're 100% closely held, a good outside board of advisors is invaluable. And probably most important is the failure to lean on your banker as an advisor. The banker should be your advisor, not your enemy, because no organization you work with outside your company has a greater vested interest in preventing your bankruptcy than your banker. Being stubborn, overestimating your own business intelligence, and failing to change. And if you do decide to change, failing to hire somebody like this to make sure that it gets communicated properly. Spending too much time working in the business instead of time on it. And lastly, and probably most important, is not building a management team. And Rick, I'm sure you can talk for hours about companies who, I'll give you an example. Two businesses, identical financial statements, same industry, everything looks fine. You'd say, well, they're worth the same, except that one owner spends 3 months in a warm climate in the winter. He's got a cabin in northern Minnesota, and he spends at least a half a week all summer long up there. He's got a team in place that can handle the business. The other owner works 70 hours a week, takes his laptop to the bathroom with him. No decision can be made without him being involved. Which business would you want to buy? So we believe our job is to identify those kind of issues and then help the clients address them.
Great, thanks, Tom. Ann?
I just want to do a process check. We're going to loop back for a deeper dive, correct?
Yeah, no, this is
it.
This
Okay.
is it.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, I do, along with Straight Talk and our consortium of consultants, we do change management and communication. So I would also like to take a poll. How many of you have a marketing budget? Okay, a handful. When you think about change management or you think about employee communication, it's really the same as marketing, but your focus is employees. So it's making sure that employees understand the direction you're taking, why you're making an acquisition, why you're implementing a new reporting system or a new financial system. It's putting in place those things to help bring them along. If you're an organization of 1 or 2, it's less of a deal. You know, you can walk down the hall and talk to your colleague and help them understand. If you're an organization of 5 or 10, it gets more complicated. If you're 25 or 100 or 3,000, clearly it's even more complicated. I've seen so many clients, so many organizations over the years where they had what they thought was a great opportunity, a great strategy, put a ton of effort into developing the strategy, did a great job doing due diligence if it was an acquisition or a business case if they were going to make a huge investment in something, and then failed to put together the change management and the employee communication around it so employees understood how that was going to impact their day-to-day job, what was going to change for them at an individual level. And so that's really where Straight Talk can come in and help you look at it with the marketing lens, but through the employee's eyes. So that's kind of what we do. I was going to give you an example. We've got a client right now who's in the cement, concrete, and energy industries, kind of an odd combination, but they do quite well. They're really a compilation of probably, I don't know, at least 30 small family businesses that have been acquired over the years, operating under one umbrella now, but largely no integration ever happened. So employees are still thinking about the president that they used to report to, who's oftentimes still in place. They're still using the same processes, the same systems. They're part of a bigger organization, but they still think of themselves as this local family-owned business. So a year or so ago, the CEO of the larger conglomeration decided, hey, this doesn't make sense. We've got 30 different financial systems, 30 different HR policies that we're managing, 30 different payroll systems. Clearly, it's costing us way more than it needs to. We need to consolidate. We need to actually integrate these companies that had been acquired over years. So it was a long period of time. Great strategy, great plan to integrate, failed to let employees know the why. So employees said, well, yeah, no, that's great. I see the new name on my paycheck, but I'm going to still do my job the way I've always done it. And I'm going to talk to my customers the way I always have. And I'm going to represent the company that I've always reported to. And so what they failed to do is help employees understand the bigger picture and what was in it for them, job growth, mobility, better customer service, better supporting systems, better finance systems. And so great strategy, but they failed to put in the change management and the communication to support employees along the way. So that's kind of the work that we do with clients. On your tables, by your plates, you've all got a half sheet, or hopefully you all have a half sheet, which is kind of when we talk about communication planning, the process that we go through. Again, a marketing approach, but with the employee lens, with the organizational lens on it. So really understanding who are the stakeholders, what's the context and the culture of your company, what are the issues and questions that they might have. If it's an acquisition, why does it make sense? Should they be concerned that there are going to be workforce reductions because you've got 2 people doing payroll now? What are those concerns that are on their minds that, if addressed, you could help them focus on their day-to-day job? What are the core messages that if you and your senior leaders walk down the hall together, you would all answer the questions the same way? So employees get consistent messaging no matter who they ask on the senior leadership team. From there, we kind of go into a targeted strategy that is audience focused. So it's not one size fits all. It's what are these group of employees really concerned about, and how are we going to address those issues? And what are those employees who talk to customers? How do we want them to respond? So again, you're creating consistency. You're creating a culture of managed communication. So it's not, kind of a cowboy culture anymore. It's intentional, and it's managed, and it's consistent, which is always good for employee and customer focus. What are the channels that you have? Again, if you're a small organization, you can walk down the hall and knock on your buddy's door and tell them. That's great, and that's fantastic, and it works well. The larger you get, the more locations you have. You need to look at which communication vehicles are going to be most effective. If you're going to do workforce reductions, you don't want to send a text message out. You don't want to bring all your employees together in a room and announce it. So there are different methods of communication depending on who you're talking to, who's delivering the message, and what the message is, of course. And then finally, how are you going to measure that? How do you know the message was successful? It's not because you sent 3 emails. It's not because you did 2 town hall meetings. Really, the way to measure it is, to what extent do employees understand the message and understand what you need them to do differently tomorrow than what they're doing today? So you really measure based on behavior change, not just, I hit the send button on the keyboard, so my hands are clean. I communicated. It's all done now, right? So this is kind of a tool that we use. I'm not sure we have time, but if you look at the back of it, I put together just a quick 3-point list. Think about, as a leader in your organization, what are the most important things that you want employees to know? It could be your vision statement. It could be product information, it could be why you're making an acquisition, it could be a host of things. But really to start thinking about helping employees focus on the most important things as a business, and then as you cascade down, how what they do supports that to help drive you forward. The last little tidbit I'll share is study after study, and again, I came from PricewaterhouseCoopers, so was involved in a lot of studies, but Ernst & Young, Watson Wyatt, International Association of Business Communicators, study after study will show you that the large majority, in fact up to 70% of projects or initiatives or acquisitions that fail to meet their budget requirements and their timeline because of lack of employee communication and good change management principles. So it's easily something that can be avoided. You just need to plan for it. That's what I got.
Great, thanks, Ann. Appreciate that. And Jen,
Thank
last
you.
but not least.
Thank you. As I was getting ready today and I was thinking of the topic, you know, what are mistakes that businesses can avoid? What are the pitfalls that I've seen in my career? In some of what I've seen over, you know, the life of my career and working with people is probably starting not having up-to-date financial information. It is amazing how often management teams get their financial statements 6 months after the fact, 3 months after the fact. It's hard to make effective management decisions when you don't have up-to-date financial information. That equates to getting tax surprises. You know, you don't even know where your bottom line is. I call you on April 1st or December 30th, depending on when we're talking, and tell you you owe a big dollar and you didn't know it because you didn't have your information together. So that's a big one. Being surprised, which affects, like you said, cash flow, makes, you know, big issues in a company when you're not aware of where your cash flow is standing and not being ready for that. The second one that I've seen through my career is not recognizing when it's time to walk away from a project, not recognizing when it's time to close a location, not recognizing when a division isn't working, which partially goes to not having up-to-date financial information if you don't know how a division is performing. But they always say, I mean, everybody's heard the whole thing about business being, it's not personal, business isn't personal, but when you live and breathe your business, there's nothing more personal. And so to make that decision to close a location or to abandon and reallocate resources to a different thing is very hard to do, and it's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is to separate and look at it purely from a financial standpoint, not a pride, not a, you know, I can get this turned around, I can turn it around, and the next thing you know, $8 million is down the toilet and you didn't get what you needed. So working with your professional team to have a plan in place, have a business plan, measure it, keep up with it, keep going back to it, and looking at, you know, are we on track? Yes or no? Okay, maybe it's time to reallocate resources and change our plan. Another one that I've seen being a big pitfall is being undercapitalized. You know, not having enough starting capital or not keeping enough equity within the organization. Not having enough equity or capital can deter you from growing. You may not be able to buy a competitor that comes to you and is ready to exit the market, and you can be able to take advantage of that. Diversifying potentially into buying your own facility, you know, so one that helps you diversify, separate your assets, and have the ability to buy a location. And then expanding potentially your operations due to customer demands or the changing market, and to not have the equity to do that when you have a customer that says, I want to increase production, I want more space, and not being able to take advantage of that opportunity is difficult. And then from the other side, not having enough equity and capital, you know, down markets happen, hiccups happen in businesses. It's just part of the natural course. And so to not be able to navigate that and manage those hiccups, I mean, nobody wants to lay people off. Nobody wants to have to react really quickly. So to be prepared for that is important. And again, goes back to your business plan that he was talking about. Another one that I is very, I think, very painful is not communicating to your professionals. Your professional team is there for a reason. Your attorney, your banker, your strategic team is there to help you. And I think one of the easiest things to do is just make sure your team knows each other. If you have an attorney, a banker, a CPA, just introduce them. That's all it takes. And tomorrow, probably with one of my top clients, I'm going out to lunch with their attorney. Part of my job is to network. Part of my job is to build my network. And so I'm going to go out to lunch with this attorney tomorrow, and half of our conversation will be about our mutual client and about what they've going on. I will gain information, they will gain information, and none of it's on your dime. It's on my dime, it's on her dime, and we're doing it on our own, but you're benefiting. And then we're just going to be able to service you better. So just make sure that your professional team knows each other, and you'll benefit greatly from that. And then the other thing about communicating to your professional team is don't call them after the fact. You know, that one's painful. Finding out, oh, I did this, or I signed this agreement. Oh, if you just would have put 2 words in there differently, it would have changed the whole outcome. So that's, you know, even if it's a quick email, copy your professionals on your emails. Keep them in the loop. You know, and then I just see it on my phone. Okay, it's in here, and if I see something that's like, whoa, stop, what are you doing? It's that easy of, hey, we need to have a conversation. You're about to trip yourself up. And then the 5th, I work a lot with commercial real estate, and so everybody remembers the, you know, 2000, 2001, you know, and then boom, right? And it was very painful for anybody in the commercial real estate market. And so something that through that I think everybody's learned is sometimes you have to take money off the table. You know, I mean, our businesses are our babies, and we keep investing in them, and we want to grow, but you also need to recognize when it's time to diversify, take some of the money off the table, you know, pay down your house so you have some security later in life, put the money in retirement, and do some of those things to secure yourself later.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. Very good ones there. Very good ones for everybody, so thank you. All right, so wanted to give the panelists an opportunity to kind of talk about their respective practice areas and share some insights that they had. Now we're going to shift gears and open it up to folks in the audience. I have a list of questions that I certainly can work from, but here's an opportunity for you to ask your questions. And if anybody has one, raise their hand. If nobody's jumping out to be first, I will kick us off. All right, no takers on being first. All right, so Tom, we got one over here, right here. Sorry, good to see you.
I am wondering if you could, in your dealings with different businesses, I'm sure you've had clients that have gone out of business, through no fault of yours, of course. But could you tell some stories about companies that have gone out of business and the decisions that were made just prior to that was kind of the nail in the coffin kind of thing. So that kind of mistake, I'm interested to hear some stories.
Kind of an autopsy.
Sure.
Right, so kind of an autopsy, and anybody that would like to chime in, whoever would.
Well, I'll just jump in quick, because that's not really where I would come into play, but I have seen that when that happens to a company, it's a good opportunity to get any intellectual property that they might.
So it's a good buying opportunity on IP. All right.
All right, I give you one. Both of the businesses are still in business, but extremely damaged. June and John were in the same business. They marketed the same software to government contractors. They knew each other from conferences and user meetings, etc. She was the salesy person. He was the operational person. They got to talking, after 5 years of knowing each other in these conferences about how complementary their skills are, and we should merge our businesses. So they did. They didn't hire somebody to profile them from a mental, emotional, psychological standpoint. They just merged the businesses because they thought they would be a powerhouse. Within 12 months, they were not speaking to each other. Okay? Employees were lined up against each other, even though they shared a couple common locations prior to the merger. Their shareholder agreement was worthless. No one was required to buy out somebody else. It was all based on 3 valuations done on the business. Neither one of them was willing to buy out the other because the businesses had been damaged so much. So their only option, after spending at least $300,000 apiece on legal fees, was to undo the merger. And what they both ended up with was less than half of what they brought to the merger. How could they avoided that? Well, number one, as I said before, vet your partner thoroughly, use professionals. I don't care, send them to a psychiatrist, but at least find out who you're dealing with. Know yourself and be very careful. They could have done a joint venture and be kind of like dating, and let's share the marketplace, and let's, instead of just jumping into the marital bed without a prenuptial that, you know, that works. So that's one example of a catastrophe. Anybody else? I bet you have a bunch.
I thankfully don't have any clients that are out of business, so I'll preface that right off the bat. But I do have a lot of clients that I coach when you're looking at a strategy or a plan or a project, and Jen kind of mentioned it. I coach people to do a proactive autopsy. So at what point in the strategy or in the project are you going to say, wait a minute now, we've put $500,000 more into it than we thought we would. We're 6 months behind, or we're 12 months behind, or we've got high employee attrition that we didn't intend, or we're losing customers. And plan proactively. At what point do you pull the plug and just say, you know what, it didn't work, we're going to cut our losses and move on? So it's before we go out of business, it's okay, this isn't working, we need to fix it. We're either going to put it on hold or we're going to pull the plug and find another strategy. So it's kind of a proactive autopsy is what we call it.
And actually, another question or on that topic? Okay, hold that just for a second. So actually, I was just looking, I traded emails with a guy not too long ago. There's actually a website called Autopsy, and I couldn't find the exact website, but anyway, Autopsy, lessons learned from failed startups. So if you go out and look on the web, there is a website. I got a little snippet from a list, and there's like 20 companies, and they go through that, so that would cover that a little bit. Okay, Wendy.
After that happy topic, thank you for bringing the room up. I'd like to ask each individual panelist, what is the single characteristic that you have found in your most successful client relationship? What is it that person possesses, or that the culture of the organization possesses that is the trajectory for success? Let's start with the ladies here first.
I would say the single most characteristic you commonly see is willingness to accept help, willingness to accept professional help or their team's, ideas, and not just operating in a box themselves. Willingness to just open themselves up to ideas and new concepts.
Yeah, mine is similar. I think the most successful people I work with are those who are willing to accept feedback and challenge things. So they don't just automatically take the feedback, but they think about it and challenge it. And they trust their employees, right? You hired people because they're smart, they're credible, trust them. They're going to see through the BS. They're going to try and make the right decisions, but trust them and empower them to help move things forward.
Yeah, my most successful client ever, although he started his business after he was 65 years old, hired us to do some strategy work with him, and we did it from the market outward instead of from the company to the market. So he recognized immediately just what a huge market opportunity he had, but he knew he couldn't do it himself. So then it was, well, I need to start building a management team. And he said, where do I start? And so we asked him to take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and write everything he liked to do and spend his time doing on this side, and all the crap he hated on this side or ignored. And then we said, okay, and he was a salesy guy. So he said, I guess I start on this side. And I said, no, at your age, you start by replacing yourself first. You need to hire another salesperson in case you have a coronary. So that was his first hire. He hired a sales manager. Then he started to work on the right side of the page, and over about a 6-year period had built engineering, quality control, HR, finance, more salespeople, expanded internationally with salespeople in Europe, and about 8 years later, he sold the business for a lot of money, but to the lowest offer. He decided since he built this management team, they deserved to be entrepreneurs and put themselves through all the hell that they had put him through. And so he sold to his employees for at least $1 million less than the next lowest offer. So,
Dan?
Okay, you took mine. So I'll make another one. I think that, and great question, thank you. I think the most successful teams I see have a clear go-to-market strategy and a way that they know that they're going to just see new business, new leads, new opportunities basically coming in every single day. I mean, call it what you will, channel, or people who are very sales-minded, sales-oriented. I frankly kind of envy those people, and I came from a technical background, and I think that those companies that are just experiencing explosive growth have really nailed their go-to-market strategy. Thanks.
And communicated it.
Yeah, so that is a good question. I was thinking about my area is so esoteric and kind of, I'm like the weird geek they keep in the corner and
Thought that was me.
pull that guy out, got some weird question, got to ask him. But I think that I was thinking that one quality I think is important when you think about something like intellectual property is that if you want something to be valuable, you have to, as a company, assign value to it. And so, you don't get anything for free. It's not cheap. It does involve attorneys, which nobody likes. I get it, but it's highly specialized and can be extraordinarily valuable. A lot of times it won't be, but the amount that you pay with the potential for upside and the cost, or the it's not really a cost, but the lost opportunity if you never try. So when I see companies that that come in and say we can only basically tell you I want this done for a price that is impossible, or for you at least in my practice, those are the tough situations. You try to work with them and you try to make something happen for them, but I think it's important to realize that certain things just cost a certain amount of money, and then you gotta pay to play, sort of. So.
And actually, I could probably go into all those subjects, but talking about the intellectual property, and I think all of these things is trying to look at the ROI of what you're working on, and the ROI of the stuff that they're talking about and the amount of time and energy you have to put into it is substantial. So especially on IP, and then in a way it's an insurance policy. So all the things that we've been covering here are basically insurance policies that don't cost a lot of money. So. Next question. All right, go ahead.
I have a question for you, which is,
For me?
yeah,
Okay.
had a client who said, I don't want to do a patent because
Yeah.
the Chinese will just copy it and, they operate like a bunch of pirates.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Well,
First of all, did everybody hear the question?
I don't want to do a patent because the Chinese will just copy it and they act like a bunch of crooks or something like. Is that right, Tom? Yeah. That was the general thrust of the question. So first of all, you're right that they might copy it, and you're right that there are not great protections in place in China for certain types of intellectual property, but you can protect your inventions or your products in different countries, and you have to do it in different ways when you do it in different countries because there's different laws. So you need expertise in the different areas. There's ways to protect things in China that are different than the U.S. So you might, if you think, well, this is how I do it in the U.S., and I kind of know that because I've worked with my patent attorney, but he tells me those kind of patents aren't very good in China. Well, there's other ways to protect things in China. So, but again, usually your sales, most companies, their biggest market potential is in the U.S. And we have an extremely strong intellectual property system here in a lot of different ways to protect the product, or the service or the business.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
So,
You can pay 'em later.
what was that?
I said he can pay him later.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was totally
On the marketing payroll. All right. Anybody else at the moment? All right. So talking about, I brought it up a little bit, ROI, but the benefits, whether it be hard ROI dollars or the benefits of going through and doing the kinds of things that you've talked about. How do the companies that you work with and the clients you work with, how do they benefit? What do they get out of it by doing the things that you've been talking about? Anybody who wants to chime in, have at it.
I'll take that one first. Again, it's easy, I think, for most organizations to understand and be able to justify marketing spend. When you talk about employee communication or change management, some people feel like it's squishy HR stuff and hard to quantify. And to some extent it is, but if you look at a bigger picture, it's really not. If you look at employee engagement, manager engagement, and alignment, both of which correlate to customer satisfaction, it's an easy way to justify, an easy way to show that you're getting the return on investment. It's not expensive. The risk of doing it and the risk of the downfall of not doing it is exceedingly higher. So to the extent you can help employees stay focused, manage the rumor mill so it's a quiet little whisper, it's not a big rumble distracting employees from their day-to-day work, and really look at the degree to which employees are engaged and satisfied and correlate that to your customer satisfaction is really a way to say, you know, we are getting the return on investment when we focus on employee communication and managing change proactively.
Again, benefits or ROI about your respective topical areas.
We always start with the client and kind of an inventory or a personal statement. What's your business worth? What do you got in your 401k plan? What other assets do you have? Okay. Now, what do you need to leave? And usually it's much bigger. So what's the ROI for actually putting a plan together and executing it to grow the value of your business? I mean, the ROI is easy to calculate. The problem is they have to do something different than they've been doing the last 10 years. You know, it used to be when we had higher interest rates, you know, you could double your sales in about 7 years. With the economy growing at 2.5%, it takes like 22 years to double sales, unless you actually truly do have sales growth, i.e. more volume, not just dollars. So it's an easy ROI for us to explain. It's a long-term ROI, and it does require the business owner to decide to do something differently, which is why we have this kind of diagnostic process, because if they don't think they want to change what they're doing, then we're not going to be able to help them, and we don't want to damage our brand by charging them a bunch of money to help their business and they don't make any of the changes that are necessary to actually grow the value.
Thank you. Okay, so we measure our success in how little we hear from our clients. Weird, right? So if our phone's not ringing, it means we're doing our job. That's the bottom line. So when we put in backup and disaster recovery systems, when we're preventing virus infection, when we're making sure clients' computers are properly maintained and kept secure, that's how we know we're doing a good job.
Yeah, so I'll just, this is kind of fun because I get to share something that happened just recently, and I can't really take too much credit for it, so it's kind of like this great, it's very sincere. So I worked with a small medical device company out of Sunnyvale, California, which is out like in, you know, basically the Silicon Valley area, and they were sold to Medtronic this year for $100 million. And they had for a small company, they had basically two products, really just one that they focused on. They had a fairly sizable patent portfolio in the US and around the world. And that was something that the chief technology officer, that basically the you know, head of the product and all of the technology that was the company, had been in the business a long time, was very familiar with the patent system, very sophisticated, always hired patent attorneys to help out, and was always filing it, you know, as much as he could, given the constraints on his business. And that would, I mean, I don't know exactly, but it's in the, you know, multiple seven figures range that added to the value of the company. So, you know, when you think about a portfolio or even just a single patent, you think, you know, that really realistically is going to cost me, you know, $20,000 to $35,000 to get and maintain. Okay, so if you do that 10 times, it's a lot of money, but the potential upside benefit, and that the intellectual property that they held was a significant part of that deal, and it was with I don't know if I said this already, but with Medtronic. So which is a very IP savvy organization. So that was really cool. We came in at the end we helped them with their portfolio after a lot of the early work had been done, and we helped them deal with a lot of the issues that we've been talking about today that, related to diligence and cleaning things up and things that had happened over time, and then working with their investors and also Medtronic to say, this is why we're doing what we're doing, this is the answer to this concern you have about this over here. So, but it was really fun to go through that, and also to see that inventor and all that hard work and upfront work, over a long period of time pay off and have that nice big portfolio. And so,
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jen, you had talked about having up-to-date financial information a little earlier. What are some of the benefits, either hard ROI benefits or kind of softer benefits associated with being current and being accurate with the financials?
Yep, I think just having the current financial information, one of the things that I think is interesting is we're all up here and we're professionals, and you all have businesses, and we all have budgets, and we need to manage those professional fees, right? You can't just let them go through the roof. You have every time I call my accountant, it's expensive. Every time I call my attorney, it's expensive, right? And we all have those necessary evils of compliance work. Oh, okay, Jen needs to do my tax return. She needs to get this filed. I have to deal with it. It costs me money, And you don't really feel like a benefit sometimes out of, the financial statements issued, the tax return issued. But it's amazing once you go to the next level and rely on your professionals at that level. The cost isn't that much more, and the benefit that you get just out of an hour conversation together and doing a strategic planning meeting once a year. And so to be able to get that, fine, you get past April, you've got your compliance done, nice, IRS is happy, move on with life. And then you meet mid-year, and let's look at, okay, this is what's going on. If you don't have that financial information, you're never going to be able to plan. You're never going to be able to use your professionals for what they're really there for. The compliance work is great, it has to be done, but to get to that next level and work together to grow a plan, if you're always looking in the rearview mirror at your information, and that's all you can provide to your professional too, it's really hard to go to that next level and get the actual benefit that you deserve out of paying all the professionals like us. And so that's what I would say.
Great. In certain industries, the patent and the intellectual property work, or the softer stuff, the brand and the copyright and so forth, that might be the difference between getting a deal done or not getting a deal done. So the ROI is astronomical. So I can't speak to his particular transaction, but I would tell you in some instances, that's the difference between light switch on, light switch off.
I'm going to quote you on that.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be. I mean, there would definitely be a sizable amount of money. There was a sizable cost too, because to file patent applications and then maintain them around the world costs a lot of money. But the irony to that is that that's kind of an old trend that when things started to open up, people started to file kind of by default, like everywhere they could. And then now people are catching up and saying, whoa, that's really expensive. China doesn't even enforce patents. Why am I filing there? Let's do something else. Let's have another strategy. So yeah, I think if they would have done it differently, they probably would have had less costs. But even in spite of that, there was a significant profit margin there. Yeah.
Question for the one over here.
Relative to I've always found that successful companies are successful because of the people that are involved. Particularly in growth, you have to transition a lot of people in and out, up, down, left, right. Can you talk about some experiences and how you deal with human capital to help keep companies from being derailed?
I'll take that one. I think the most important thing is to set clear objectives and have them cascaded through the organization. So employees at every level are very clear on what's expected of them, what the culture is, what the values are, what role they play in helping their supervisor and helping him or her supervisor be successful. So I think clear alignment is one of the most important things you can do to keep an organization moving forward together I like the analogy of a bus rumbling down the road, and every once in a while one of the wheels might start shaking. You don't have the luxury of pulling the bus to the side of the road. The bus still has to stay on track and stay on its schedule. You have to figure out, why is that wheel shaking, and how can we fix it while we're still moving forward? And I think more often than not, just getting employee alignment with the vision, and that's always a kind of an esoteric thing, but directly aligned so everyone understands expectations and how what they're doing helps contribute to the greater good, I think goes a long way in onboarding and offboarding as well as employees change.
Yeah, I would echo that. The cascading, once you have a strategy in place, all of your key people ought to have no more than 5 key objectives. And you need to hold them accountable. And that's where companies get derailed, is they have a great strategy and everybody's all excited, but nobody changes anything. They just go back to their regular day job. So, and then secondly is recognizing what we always call pures. That's the previously undetected recruiting error. And dealing with them, I mean, compassionately, because if they're not going to succeed with your organization, for God's sake, give them a chance to be successful somewhere else, instead of dragging them along for months and years and they continue to underperform. So.
But beware of the HR implications of that, of which there are many.
Okay, my contribution to this would be, you can't fix people with technology. I was doing a software implementation of CRM software, and during the mid course of this 2-month project, the sales manager changed. Half the sales team was gone, and this project became to be an 8-month and counting project. Because I lost the leadership in the organization that could really help make this thing happen, and being from the outside, there's only so much that I can do to push and get adoption and engagement of the sales team. So now, slowly but surely, we're getting this new sales manager, once he's getting on his feet, is adopting and engaging and using the tool, but if the leadership isn't there, it's hard to get traction.
Oh, go ahead.
Just in an organization like mine, I'm a professional services organization, and you have 2 types of people in the organization, right? Revenue generators that, do work for clients, and then you have your internal, right? And there's something to be said about recognizing when you need to add to that internal overhead and doing it appropriately. We added our marketing guy, he's here today, and that just brought us to the next level. And then it takes other things off my plate so I can service my clients, not worry about creating, a proposal. He can help me with that and do it 10 times better than I can. And recognizing that of where to allocate your resources, I think, brings the people that are good at what they do to the next level.
So I'm a big kind of proponent of the idea that what you project out to the world tends to affect, or at least affect, what you get back from the world, which is totally like, touchy-feely and kind of like wishy-washy.
Very anti-intellectual property, patent stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but so what I've seen in organizations who are they're trying in the process of transforming themselves, and they're basically saying, we're going to do a lot of things differently. One of them is IP. We need to start paying attention to IP in a more formal process, and they're putting down a lot of edicts and policies, which is good, best practices. They're being delicate and cognizant of how they communicate that. But there's resistance, and I think one of the reasons that there's resistance is because they're basically telling them, we got to do all this great stuff because it's going to be really beneficial. We're not going to give you any extra money or any extra people to do it. So you have to do it starting today. Go. And so there's going to be some challenges with that process. And so I think, again, it's about assigning value. Now, they're doing a great job. They're doing it's a huge change, and they have challenges in that process. But you have to be cognizant about, even if you can do little things to try to, because those engineers are down there, they're smart, and they're thinking, so why am I spending time on this? What's the point? Why wouldn't I just do it the way you've been kind of implicitly telling me to do it for years and years by not assigning value to it? Now you've created a policy, but we're still not really actually assigning value to it in the organization. organization. So, yeah.
There's an acronym in the change management world called ADKAR, ADKAR, and it's really the process by which individuals experience change, whether it's successfully or not successfully. So the first A is awareness. I need to be aware of the change. The second one, which is I think the most challenging, is desire. You have to find a way to make me want to change. I don't want to change because you came down with the edict and bonked me over the head with it. You need to find a way to reach them, help them understand why it's important, and create that desire. You have to give them the knowledge. That's the K, the knowledge. If it's training, if it's new policy information, if it's a new, job guide, whatever it is, and the ability. You have to empower them and give them the ability to be successful, and then reinforce is the R, to make sure they understand they're doing the right thing, it's helping the company, it's getting them closer to their objectives, and really reinforce that change. So there is a very distinct process to help employees get through that change, even if they don't initially see, well, what's in it for me, and why should I learn to do something different?
All right, so I got a handful of minutes before we close here. So panelists, thanks for sharing all the information with everyone. If we took about a minute or so per panelist and you wanted to kind of sum things up, would you please do that? And maybe we'll start down here since you're closest.
Sure. Yeah, I think it would be, when you're starting out, put some kind of simple, formal process in place for IP. If you have a company that is a product company or a technology company that's going to be producing products or services over time that are relevant to intellectual property, start out simple, but some kind, and you might need to hire someone to get a little bit of help, but some kind of process for, this is how we generate ideas, this is how we make decisions about filing a patent application or design patent application. This is how we reward inventors, These are the things we're going to try doing. Make it a part of the company DNA. And, I could list the companies. We know them locally. Medtronic, 3M. Companies that are known for innovation have a culture of innovation. And part of that is intellectual property. The top inventors inside of Medtronic are like superstars. The ones that have their name on the most patents because they've been litigated, they've been, those people are really well known inside the organization. And that's a decision that was made, on the part of the leadership, or that grew organically, however it happened. So just start out with something simple and start from the beginning to build it into the kind of the DNA of the organization.
Great, thanks, Tim. Dan?
Okay, so having made most of the mistakes in my own business that has been discussed so far today, I am grateful that frankly, we're all very grateful to have these kinds of smart people in our lives. But most importantly, it's asking the question I ask all the time is, what's the rookie mistake that everybody makes the first time, whatever it is? I actually asked the videographer that question, like, what's the rookie mistake that just annoys you about people on these panels that you have to go fix and post all the time? Whatever it is, I want to ask people a question, but right before I just make that big leap into whatever new exciting thing it is that I'm doing. And so I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dan. Tom?
Plan your work and work your plan. And you've got to have discipline. And unfortunately, many business owners don't have the discipline, so it's kind of like I go to the doctor and he says, drink less, eat less, exercise more. I said, fine, give me a prescription for that because I'm not going to do it. And so if the business owner does not have the discipline, then they need to find somebody from the outside to help hold their feet to the fire to actually work the plan.
Ann?
Thanks for the invitation, by the way, Rick. This is a great group. I enjoy participating when I'm able to get downtown for these meetings. I would say the biggest thing I would encourage all business owners to do is think of your employees as a key stakeholder in your world. So customers are important, your shareholders are important, your vendors and suppliers are important. Your employees are the ones who get you across that finish line. And it's not a huge investment, it's easy to justify, there's bottom line benefit to making sure that communication is effective, and when there's a change or an acquisition or an integration or a new financial system, that the steps are put in place to help employees be successful from a change perspective. So I guess I would encourage you to think of your employees as a key stakeholder at par with your customers and everyone else.
Great. Thank you. Jen?
I would say for me, the key takeaway today would be just talk to your professionals. You would be so surprised how often they think about you and how invested they are in you and care and want to see you succeed. So just communicate with them, even if it's just copying them on emails or throwing them any notes or anything that they want to know. The other thing I would say, this is kind of a little off topic and away from accounting and tax, but as I just became an owner in my firm recently, the one thing I noticed when we talk about all the mistakes we make is we get so invested in our business. We love our business and we stop taking care of ourselves. I mean, when I became a partner, stress level through the roof, and it was you just, that's all you think about. And so sometimes just take time for yourself and walk away and be healthy. And I think that's very important to remember too.
Great, thank you. A couple of real quick announcements. I have a panel on Thursday for pricing your products for innovation and disruption. And then Tom talked about building and utilizing boards. December 3rd, Club Entrepreneur has a panel on utilizing boards. And then keep an eye out in the January time frame, Upsize and Club Entrepreneur will do another event like this sometime in January. So have a fabulous Thanksgiving holiday season and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.